Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Quick Resume Podcast. We've got leaks today. We've got leaks all around, every body part covered in leaks. If you haven't been keeping up with the news, we're going to be touching on it today. Thanks for joining us. My name is Deck, and I'm joined by Timmy Wimmy Pumpkin Pie. Hi, buddy.
Worst intro you've ever given me to the show. Timmy Wimmy Pumpkin Pie, but I don't even know why I'm being referenced as pumpkin pie. But thanks,
no, you don't ask why. You ask why not, and then you just go from there.
I've never had pumpkin pie before.
You? Neither have I. No.
Yeah, I can't.
I don't like pumpkin.
Great.
As a general rule.
I don't like pumpkin either. So I can't imagine. Is it sweet? Is pumpkin pie sweet?
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing is, the people that you meet that like pumpkin fucking love pumpkin. Like, they're ecstatic about it. It's the only thing they speak about.
Yeah, they're obsessed with it. Yeah, it's like everyone goes mental for the whole Starbucks pumpkin spice latte season in October. I've never had one in my life. I imagine they're probably all right, when it's just a bit of spice in a latte or something. But
yeah. It's weird because I've noticed that they've started abbreviating the name now. They just sell the PSL is back, and I was like, PSL, what are you on about? And it 2 days later, I was like, oh my god, I know all about it, but it's so weird. It's like a cult following the pumpkin spice latte.
Right. It's weird, yeah. But anyway, this has been our pumpkin podcast, so thanks. Tune in for next week. Please tune in next week.
We'll talk about butternut squash next week.
Yeah. But no, I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm pretty tired today. I'm relatively low energy, but I did have a mocha a couple of hours ago, so hopefully that'll keep me going. I was at the coffee shop and I was like, I need caffeine, but I also need sugar, and I feel like coffee wise, mocha is the way to go, just to get both those things. So,
definitely. Oh, it's a great idea.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no. How's everything with you, man? You good?
How's it? Yeah, I mean, I'm okay. I was gonna bring it in here, but I decided against it because otherwise the temptation to just chew on them at the mic would be there. And I went to a Haribo outlet earlier. Well, not. It was part of a shopping place that I went to, and they did a proper pick and mix. They had boxes and boxes of stuff you could buy, but I was kind of I want a bit of everything. And they did one of the old school ones where you just buy a tub and you just fill it up. There's no weighing. There's no nonsense where you have to go back and they check how much No, you just get a little takeaway box, a Chinese takeaway box. And it just literally the only rule is make sure you can close the top. But no one was monitoring it. And so by the time I was I was stuffing it in, trying to get more jelly snakes and frogs in. And I closed it. And it's there's a rip at the top where I've forced it closed.
Oh, nice, man. Getting your money's worth.
Exactly, I did get my money's worth, but yeah, not bad at all. So I'm looking forward to digging into that. But that's really not an important life update. But other than that, what have I done? What's happened this week? I guess I've just received my third Elite controller. That's pretty cool.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Really well-made controllers, everybody. I mean, they're fantastic, but their longevity is garbage too.
It seems to be about 6 months for all of them before something goes wrong. It's just irritating. But yeah, I mean, I think I've said on the show before, if you want the Elite controller, I think is the best controller on the market, but it's hard to recommend because the bumpers specifically seem to get gammy after a particular period of time, which is just so dumb. So if you're going to do it, get insurance. I got it on Amazon for I think it was £13, and it's 3 years of free returns. And I've returned it
3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. I've done it on 3 separate occasions. Because I've got Amazon Prime, they literally just send it out the next day, and then it's just return over the next 30 days to your old one whenever you get a chance. So it's great. So that's great. New one feels nice. It's not covered in gamer goop.
God.
I'll leave that up to your imagination. And I finished Wolfenstein this week as well.
Nice.
Which was pretty rad, man. I had a great time. 8.5. I don't know if I said this to you actually, but it got me really excited for because obviously they're making the Indiana Jones game. Machine Games are. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's going to be a good game. because I was kind of like, when I've known about Wolfenstein for ages, but whenever like I saw it, I was just kind of like, this is just kind of Doom, but Nazis instead of demons. Even though the similarities of the Venn diagram is also almost a circle. So, but it kind of wasn't, and I don't know. It was like the shooting was way better in Doom. It's not bad in Wolfenstein. It's good. It's not great. It's like the this is the thing. I'm such a snob now for like shooting, and it's really hard for something to get it right. Like the outer Siege had this problem. Like the inner bounds on the movement was too much. So like it wouldn't move much, but then you'd get halfway, and then suddenly you'd start turning loads. That's what I mean when I say that. Which is fine. You get used to it, but a lot of the shooters I play are a lot more smooth than that. So that was fine, but the storytelling in it was just really good, and the voice acting was just really good. And I wasn't expecting it at all. Like the story was pretty cool as well, but it was just the way it was told. It was just very like I had high production value. It just felt which really caught me off guard. Like I really wasn't expecting it. And there were like some light RPG elements in there as well. Like you got some XP based on what you did, stuff like that. Wicked, man. Good old time. That was a good old time. I'm really glad I played it.
Yeah, nice. I haven't played the second one. Obviously you went straight to the second one, skipping the first one. I'm going to mention that so you get, if anyone's in the comments, I'll skewer you alive. But man, I have heard they're pretty good. So it is definitely one for my list. I've got things ahead of it, but it definitely is one for my list.
Yeah, it's been on my thing for. I think since it got announced to be on Gamespot, I was like, oh yeah, I need to play that.
Yeah, for sure.
One of those ones that like the Bethesda acquisition. That I was like, oh sweet, because I would have been a bit like umming and ahhing unless I got a really good deal on it, whether I would have actually played it. But obviously, like Game Pass just removes that out of the equation. So yeah, it's a good time.
But yeah, no, it's been a big week for me gaming as well. I've actually completed a game this week.
Shit,
I know, it's crazy. Add it to my.
Tell us all about it.
I'm not going to tell you all about it. I don't want any spoilers.
Because I'm pretty sure we started this conversation in like episode like 2 or something.
Oh, I don't fucking out me.
It's all right. It's just like,
yeah,
give us
episode 2. This is 25. Anyway, go on, Tim. No, it does take me a while to get around to these things, but man, it was good. I did totally enjoy it once I just sat down and played it. I am a sucker for getting the atmosphere right for those sort of games, though. So I sort of only played it sort of late at night, like 8 o'clock onwards, where it's dark, and I whip on the headphones, sit in a dark room, and play it. I guess I'm just pretty sadistic like that. I just like to get the maximum experience out of a horror game, I guess. It's kind of what you pay for, right? You pay for those heart-pounding moments and the tense moments, which I don't feel like you get to the fullest extent if you play it like in the middle of the day on like TV sound, not headphones. But hey, I guess I'm just a bit of a snob when it comes to that.
I guess so.
But yeah, man, it was really good. I did really enjoy it. I think I clocked in probably like 9 hours total completion time, so it's actually quite a short game.
I knew it was quite short, but it's I remember going on the website, how long to complete, and seeing it was like between 9 and 12 for most people.
Yeah. So I definitely could have done it quicker. Like I did quite a lot of exploration and made sure I checked most areas and stuff like that. But yeah, I even saw there was I was curious because I only hit like 50% of the achievements, so I was quite curious. I was going through it. There's actually an achievement for completing the game in under 3 hours, which I found quite funny.
Speed run.
Which I don't know. I find it quite interesting because they still packed in a really good story. It didn't feel too short. It didn't feel too lengthy. It was just the right amount. But even though it did only clock in at like 8-9 hours, and it just goes to show, and they made that achievement for doing it in under 3 hours. It just goes to show that the devs are fully aware that they've made this story that's not particularly long, but it just kind of felt right. There was probably like an element of they probably were sitting around the table like, should we make this longer? Should we pad it out? Can we do it in this sort of way? But I think they probably ended up just not doing that, which I think was actually the right move, to be honest. Sure, you're spending £60 on a 9-hour game, but there was an element of me that did want to go back and play it again, and I think I totally would have if my backlog wasn't already so high. Because I genuinely almost clicked new game and went to play it on the harder difficulty, but I've just got so much on my backlog that it just feels like it would be a waste of time. I want to experience other things. But yeah, it's a good game. I highly recommend. I give it about an 8.5 out of 10. And yeah, it does a good job with the pacing. Sort of beginning areas of the game are quite slow. Well, not slow, but less actiony, less shooty Call of Duty, man. And a little bit more tense. And then towards the end, it breaks that up by making it, a bit more actiony and stuff like that. But it doesn't give you too much of it, because that game is not fantastic when it comes to shooting. It's passable, but it's not built for high octane shooting for long periods of time. So they kind of give it to you in very small chunks. But which I appreciate. They broke up.
How was Tall Lady
with that? Tall Lady was fantastic. She's right at the beginning of the game. Yeah, I did get a step on me a few times. Yeah, I was like, oh no, she caught me. But
oh no,
not again. Not for the 20th time.
I'll have to clip it.
But yeah, she was right at the beginning of the game. She's actually one of the bosses you kill actually quite early. So spoilers, I guess. But cool. If you play that game for more than a couple hours, you already know that. So whatever, not really spoilers. But yeah, good game. I enjoyed it. I don't want to waffle on too much, but I completed the game. I did it.
Good job, man. We're all proud of you. We're proud of you for completing that 9-hour game. Yeah, do you know what? It's
You son of a bitch. That was not cool. That little backhanded comment.
Yeah, sorry, man. It just came out. It just comes out of me. It's the shortness of the game is something that hasn't really followed it around, which I am quite surprised about, because because you see this shit in like console wars all the time when people are on Twitter. If like there's a Xbox game that's like sub 20 hours, or vice versa, but PlayStation game that's sub 20 hours, that you see people like, oh, it's not even worth your money. But like that's not. Maybe it is just something that gets. I wonder how it's sold, because I wonder how people are like reacting.
Very, very well.
Yeah, I know it. I know it was critically successful, and like because it's Resi, I guess it already has the brand recognition on it, so maybe that was just enough to push to get good sales anyway. Because I mean, let's face it, that is a very short game. That's a lot of money for not much content for your traditional game. So but like I said, it's not something that's really followed it around. I don't see people really talking about it. So
I think it's because a lot of people probably felt the way I felt about it when I was just explaining it. It was just good. I was happy with how it started and how it concluded, and all the characters inside it, and that made me not really care about the runtime that much, to be honest. So I think it did sell quite well. It had a really good marketing campaign behind it. I remember seeing so many ads for it all the time, and it was so mysterious the way they did all of it. With Chris Redfield, seeming like a bad guy. They were kind of it was very similar to how Halo did their marketing for Halo 5, where they were just like, "Who's Chief a bad guy?" And it turns out it was just like horse shit. It was so anticlimactic when you actually got Halo 5.
Pretty misleading, that marketing, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't actually that misleading in Resi 5, Resi 8, sorry. But yeah, it was just good, and obviously they're creating it's part of a trilogy as well, so it carries on from Resident Evil 7, and then they're making Resident Evil 9 the final in that trilogy. And I think it's just quite interesting. They've taken it in a new route. Characters people know and love already, but kind of giving it a new arc, not just the standard Raccoon City T-Virus sort of thing. It's cool.
Yeah, I just gave it a quick Google. Resident Evil Village sales past 4.5 mil, and that was early July, so it's doing absolutely fine. So it's kind of interesting, these sort of short games, because there is an element of like they're so. I think unless you're like a big brand and you have that to fall on, like as a safety net, the sales become so sensitive to critic scores. Because if your game's 9 hours short but you've hit like 70 Metacritic, that's a dead game. People aren't going to buy that, unless the campaigns, like the marketing campaign's really good, or there's like an outlying variable. But obviously Village reviewed really well. It's already a popular series, so people are like, well, yeah, that's no biggie.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like the fan base of Resident Evil is a very strange fan base. They obviously they're quite used to games being that length now for quite a period of time, and they're all about playing it over and over again and just being more efficient with it, or trying new things and playing it on the harder difficulties. Because I imagine that game will take substantially longer to complete on the harder difficulty you unlock after the first completion, because ammo is so much more scarce. Things are way tankier, stuff like that. So I imagine the game is quite a bit harder and longer to complete. But yeah, there's Resident Evil fans do get a lot of replayability out of the games. They tend to do it. I would imagine if you asked a Resi fan how many times have you completed, most Resi games, they would say a few times. It's just that sort of fan base, I think. So yeah, and there's lots of secrets. There's loads of secrets like hidden everywhere in those sort of games. They're almost like collectible games in a way, like Banjo-Kazooie style, when you actually go back and do these things. So many hidden things everywhere. I know for a fact that I just miss so much stuff. So
I know the feeling with Psychonauts. That game's bonkers with collectibles. It's crazy.
Yeah,
well, it's like over 100 per level,
but just secrets and things to do and lore, and it's just and the Resident Evil puzzles can get very, very complex as well. So that's all it's very like dense. Fans love that.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm happy you had a good time. That sounds good.
Thanks, man.
And I mean, I guess we would be remiss to not speak about where our toes are in the water levels that is Destiny.
They're dipping. They're dipping.
I think toenails are maybe in, but we're not to the feet yet.
You went kind of balls deep. You cannonballed in last night. I told you not to. This man at midnight last night, after we played Apex for a little bit, boots up Destiny, which we haven't played in years, properly in years. We probably dropped off around year 1.5, maybe even the end of year 1. And he just throws himself in there and tries to absorb like 3 years worth of content at midnight. Like, you were so overwhelmed, it was unreal.
It was horrible. It was truly horrible. And I guess it's worth asking, like, for any of the listeners out here, if you've made it this far, thanks. If you play Destiny as well, if you happen to do both, tell us what the fuck is going on. I mean, I think I've got it figured out, but there's a good chance that I don't, because I still have many questions, but I think I understand the fundamentals now of what's going on, and we're not new to Destiny. We smashed Destiny 1, played a fair bit when Destiny 2 came out, and since that we've just we played like the campaign of each expansion, didn't we? But then never really got its claws back in us. So like we played Shadowkeep and Forsaken and Beyond Light, but didn't get into the whole grinding and raiding again like we used to. And it's just, I brought it up on the podcast last week, and it's just been occupying our headspace since then. And
it's been living there rent free.
Yeah, and I played it a bit. I did obviously play it a bit last night, and I was playing a bit on xCloud earlier as well, just doing some quests. And to be honest, I was having a great time. Just getting little shiny bits of loot that give me +3 on my power, popping that on. I don't even want to start thinking about the battle pass or like exotics. Like, I'm not even there yet. Or Crucible. Oh my god! So
stay clear.
But there's a lot of stuff that I'm seeing like in there that are like that's really like promising. I'm like, that's a good idea. I quite like a lot of the systems in Destiny. I always quite liked that. You can get like a guaranteed bit of powerful gear each week from each game mode with Nightfalls and then whatever it is, Crucible, and now obviously Trials is back and Gambit as well. So
it definitely encourages you to play loads of different styles of game. You know, when I think of Destiny, I don't just think of like a looter RPG. You know, like it's so many different things wrapped into one. You know, you can go into any activity and it almost feels like you're playing a different game. You know, and stuff like that. So in that regard, it's very varied and versatile, and I can definitely see why it's a lot of people's like only game that they play. Because, you know, they might just blitz the shit out of strikes and vanguards and nightfalls, but then the next day they only play PvP or they only play Gambit or they do a raid. You know, all these things feel so different, and you can just dedicate like a day of the week to each of these things. You know, and you don't ever feel that burnt out. Yeah, and you can solo it. Yeah, exactly.
Most of it anyway. You know,
not raids.
Yeah, and it's like because like I think I really can't remember if like I mentioned last week what had made it come into my head, but it was it was because I was saying like a lot of podcasts I've been listening to, people keep bringing it up, and like what I'd been hearing is that for like the last 6 months or so, the player base has started to pick up again. Like Destiny, there are like more people playing Destiny 2 now than there were like 2 years ago. So I think like they've made like lots of positive changes that people are like really excited for, that have maybe brought people back in, and like us, you know, people are hearing that positivity, you know, because they got rid of one of the really unpopular things they did a while back was like sunsetting weapons, from what I understand. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. So the idea would be, you know, that after a certain point, stuff just gets vaulted and you can never use it again. It like goes away, or like maybe you can craft it, but it's like, you know, it's just purely there cosmetically.
Kind of. Which I hate to just butt in, but it kind of reminds me of the way Hearthstone does their system, which I didn't like. Because with Hearthstone, I always felt like I got into it like so much for like a season or something like that, and then I drop off, and I spent quite a lot of money in that season, and when I come back, I feel like everything I had was just useless now. Like I can't even use it in like standard play anymore. So I feel like it's quite a similar sort of system.
It's a fair analogy, because then they had the wild playlist, didn't they? Which is basically just you can use any cards from anything, but then sometimes it feels like, I'm sure it isn't, but it feels like the gap between standard and wild is just so big that like you're going to go against someone that has like every best card from every season. Where I'm sure they won't, but like I think it's a deterrent for sure. So I don't know how these sort of developers are going to get around these sorts of problems, but it seems that people have been happy with how Bungie have been handling it since going back on that, and they've since said, from what I understand, like 2 or 3 seasons ago, that they're not doing that anymore, and from that point onwards, weapons will stay at that power level or something, or maybe they can be brought with you. I can't remember. Like, this is the thing. It's really hard to understand the details and the jargon, but guns will stay was essentially an armor and stuff, so like it doesn't feel like you're losing stuff. And Trials has been met with really warm reception again as well, and obviously all the raids are always sublime, and the Series X enhancement, man, is just so delightful. Like it handles so well, it just looks gorgeous.
It really does.
So and that's
for a 5-year-old game as well.
Yeah,
it's like 4 or 5 years old, and it still looks and plays like phenomenal. I mean, Destiny 2's always played fantastic, but that game locked at 60, playing online with a bunch of other people and your friends, is kind of crazy. You know, I guess PC players have been experiencing this for ages, ever since it first came out. But for us, it is kind of crazy to have a shared world shooter running at like a really nice resolution, locked at 60. Online.
And looking that good, you know, and it's funny because I saw it in their own blogs. They describe Destiny as like an action MMO now. Like it's the scope is that wide that they themselves, like, they never used to. They used to call it, like you say, a shared world like looter, but now they consider it an action MMO. You know, so
I'd agree with that. There's so many activities in there now that I would agree. The fact that it is considered like an MMO now.
Yeah, it's just it feels like a nice time to come back to, because like I was running the strike playlist like yesterday, and I did, obviously they have like the different modifiers and strikes now. Like every time you go into it, it's a bit different, and I did like 5 back-to-back strikes, and they were different every time. I mean, I don't know how many are in rotation. Like presumably there is
quite a lot,
like
I would imagine.
Yeah, I imagine that there's not tons, but like enough like variety, because like, it used to be a problem where there was sometimes like there's only 4, and then if you're an Xbox, it would only be 3 because like so it would be timed exclusive to PlayStation for 46 years. So so there's that. So and there's just so much going on that it's like on one hand it's like a bit overwhelming, but on the other hand it's like there's a lot you could get into here if you sort of wanted to. And obviously because we never bought Beyond Light, did we? It's on Gamespot, it still is. So like that's why we own it, and that's so that's neat for us. But yeah, it's cool, man. So I'm just sort of dabbling around with that at the moment.
Yeah, I'm quite excited to sort of dip my toes back into that. To be honest, it's such it feels like a nice long road, a steady journey that you can go down and just enjoy. Like
we'd have to drop Apex for a bit though.
We would have to drop Apex, yeah. It won't be fragging so much. We got to hit that Masters one day.
Go back to Trials. That's all right.
Trials was good fun, to be fair. We used to love Trials of Osiris back in D1.
Great. And that's the other thing. So like, because like it was only like maybe a couple of weeks ago they spoke about the Witch Queen, which is like the next big expansion, like their big one, like their landmark one.
Like Forsaken, Taken King.
Yeah, like Taking. Yeah, I guess Forsaken was like the big. So that I think this essentially would be what Destiny 3 was if they hadn't decided to stick to this continuing platform.
Yeah. Which I'm quite happy them actually sticking to D2 and just expanding on it, to be honest, because it starts to feel like such a collection of different stories that you can just dip back into whenever you want. And they don't, they're not sold separately at £60.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of things like that I think they've done to try and make onboarding a bit easier for people like us. Like on the directory where you can see all the planets, there's like a little thing you can click at the top that like shows you the timeline of like all the things that have happened. So I was looking, I was like, oh yeah, that was there, and it like gives you a very brief overview of the story, and obviously it gives you an idea of like what is now in the game and what isn't. And I forgot because the first 2 DLCs for this game got blasted, didn't they? It was like what was it? Something to do with Osiris, and then
Curse of Osiris, and there's like a Vex one, I think.
A Vex one, that's right. Was it when we went back to the Black Garden or some shit? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it could have been.
Yeah, and so like what some of the stuff they've spoken about in like that they're gonna get in for the Witch Queen, which has been delayed. It was supposed to come out at the end of this year. Got people really excited. They've said that they're basically expanding. I think I sent you this the other day. They're expanding like all the classes in the same way that they've like made the status classes, in that you can like go on quests to find ways to modify them. So they're just focusing on the Void classes when that launches, but they'll be doing the others in the future. So yeah, there's like extra layers now in Destiny of like RPG, which I think a lot of people had a problem with, that it was too shallow, so like people started leaving. But now you go back to it and it's like, you can like spec into like loads of stuff, like all the mod stuff is like way overhauled, and you can really spec into certain stuff and pimp it out. And yeah, so you can tell like all those systems look very appealing, I guess is where I'll leave that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, they've definitely they've changed it so much with build variety since we first played D2. They really expanded on all the individual stats and stuff like that, which is really cool. You can kind of just build your character however you want now. Very versatile.
So we'll have to get our toes, get them in a bit further, and then report back, really, see if it actually does get its hooks in us this time. Cool. All right then.
Cool. So
this week, the day was going to come, but Deathloop finally released.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. On my notes here, I've got a little crying emoji next to it because we can't play it.
No.
Or rather, we could, but I'm not going to do that to myself. So, Deathloop, man, what are your thoughts on this whole bajangle?
My thoughts on it are overall obviously very positive. It's come from an Xbox studio. It's timed exclusive on PlayStation. Don't ask me how that's happened. And yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to get the game eventually. Obviously, it's made by a studio underneath Xbox, so I'm very happy for them. They look like they've made a fantastic game. It's been reviewed extremely well across the boards. I think it's evened out a very high 80s, which we were discussing was pretty crazy for a shooter to be almost 90.
Definitely. It's currently sitting at 88 on Opencritic based on 120 reviews, and it's on 88 on Metacritic as well.
Yeah. So
really
a
high.
solid 8.8 is crazy for a shooter. You don't really see that too often. So yeah, obviously kudos to them. And it looks fantastic. I've watched some gameplay on it. I don't want to watch too much because I don't want to spoil it for myself when I get it in 3 years. But yeah, it just looks totally right on my alley. I love the whole invasion system and stuff like that. I think it's so cool how they've sort of gone down the taken what Dark Souls does and moved that into a shooter. I think it's very cool.
It's crazy, man. I think it's bonkers how. I mean, I know this is somewhat up the alley of what Arcane do, but it's kind of just layers on layers of this game. It's like a kind of roguelite-ish game, a bit more actiony rather than stealth. There's an invasion mechanic,
storytelling in it as well.
Storytelling, it's just bonkers that I think Arcane just casually just shat this out. I mean, I know we've obviously been hearing about it for ages, but it's I don't know. It's just such a. I mean, it's not. I don't know. It's not a massive departure from what they normally do in that it's a first person kind of game. Their other games aren't shooters. They are more immersive sims, but so well, like you say, is a massive congrats to the team. Current Game of the Year contender. Gamespot gave it a 10 out of 10, and for everybody who watches that sort of reviews, Gamespot have a very small list of games that have handed out 10 out of 10.
I think IGN gave it a 10 as well. I watched the video review for IGN, and they gave it a 10 too.
Yeah, that's right. I think you're right. And
which
so
again,
that makes...
you don't see that too often.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think that makes the shortlist at the moment for some games that are reviewing the best are Deathloop with 88, It Takes Two at 89, Psychonauts 2 at 89, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart 88, Monster Hunter Rise at 88, Death's Door at 88. So all of these, and Tales of Arise that just came out. That looks up your alley, by the way. Have you heard of that?
Tales of Arise. I feel like I have. Yeah, it's like a Japanese kind of game, isn't it?
Yeah, it came out last. That's on an 88 as well, so that's current.
Okay. Yeah, no, I haven't heard too much about it, but yeah, it's maybe something that might drop onto my radar.
Might tickle your fancy. Yeah, so I mean, I've watched one or two reviews, spoiler-free reviews, and the game looks fun as hell. Obviously, I messaged you maybe 36 times when the reviews started rolling in, in just pure rage and jealousy.
I actually muted you because I didn't want to talk about Deathloop. I was still in the grieving stage. I was
fully in anger. Yeah, so it is infuriating for people who can't play it, but I mean, I hope it's weird. I hope it sells well because Arcane games don't sell well, and I feel like there's an additional layer of contempt being held because it's from Bethesda, who obviously this is going to be the last Arcane game that ever goes to a PlayStation. And the subset of people who probably won't buy the game because of that is very, very small, but it's Arcane doesn't need that when their games are always critical darlings, but just don't sell well. It's just so bizarre.
They don't make a bad game, man. I think it's also probably worth noting, we can't go without saying the user score on that game is phenomenally low.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah, that's a mystery to me. No, it's a bunch of bloody Sony ponies just ripping on it because it's made by an Xbox studio, even though it's a fantastic game that they have timed exclusivity for. I'll never understand the gamer brain.
They won't actually play it. The people doing that are people who aren't going to play the game. It's just
but solely because it's just not. It's a studio under Xbox. People are so weird.
Mm-hmm.
People are so weird.
And this is why I never trust user reviews ever.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think I've ever gone to a user review section, scroll through it, and be like, interesting.
Good
points.
points.
Good points, Fart Boy 69. Completely agree with you. No, I don't think I've ever done that in my entire life.
When the game first came out, there was a user score of like 2.8. It's come up to 6.1 now. So it's still like dumb in like the disparity there, but it was. Because this is the thing. It's always the same shit. It's just people putting 10s and people putting 0s. I'm gonna read out just a few little tasters of some of the scores here. Yeah. Gameplay feels outdated. Graphic is outdated. Sound design is outdated. An outdated game. Thank you, Smelly C15. Pepe17 says, Dishonored with a new skin, outdated graphics, outdated gameplay, piece of shit. Corrupt IGN with 10 point.
I love how he just ends it with piece of shit. Piece of shit. Well, constructive, mate. Really constructive.
We could make a show out of this, couldn't we?
Yeah.
And Fard Michael 45 says gameplay and mechanics feel outdated as fuck. Gets repetitive too fast. Wait for sale if you want to buy. 0.
What's this whole? Why is every single comment so far been everyone saying it's outdated? I think it actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's not blowing me away, but the art style is pretty nice to look at, man.
It's like hyper-realism is like in vogue right now. It's like popular. Like a lot of PlayStation games do that, other than Ratchet and Clank, obviously. But every other one pretty much is just hyper-realism, and it's just like a lot of the big multiplats are the same. Battlefield, COD, Halo isn't really. Some of the other big AAA games I can't think of that have come out in the last few years have been the same. So when people see stylized graphics, they shit themselves. You know, it's like Psychonauts 2. Everybody was on Twitter like giving the game shit, and it's like, this is what art looks like. Like, you know, it's putting your own spin on things.
It's varied, yeah. Doesn't come in one.
But those games always age really well. Like, you know, like Dishonored 1, the remastered edition, like looks great, and it like obviously they're not like hyper detailed, but that's never what they're going for. You know, they're always there. It's just a style, and yeah, so I agree with you. Yeah, people are just weird about this stuff. So yeah, just 0s and 10s throughout the whole thing, and then because people read them and they're like, "What? That's ridiculous," and then they put down a 10 when it like whether or not that's actually true or not, but like they do it just because they feel they have to counteract the 0s. So it's literally that for every game.
See if you can find like a genuinely sincere one. It's just like, you know, 8 out of 10. I had fun with it, but you know, after a few playthroughs and a few like, see if you can genuinely find a sincere one that's actually just not bashing it or overly praising it for the sake of bringing the score up. There we go.
This is the best shooter of 2021, and as a PS5 exclusive, it is better than ever.
Oh wow! Timed exclusive, mate. Please, can you reply to his?
Actually,
comments.
Oh, hang on. Oh, okay. Here we go. This is actually quite long, but I'll just give you a quick vignette from the top. Yeah. He's put 8. Yeah, this is a very solid game that rewards you for being creative and paying attention to the information it gives you. The gameplay is noticeably smooth, with the movement and especially standing out in the game and the gunplay, which is complemented incredibly well by the DualSense controller haptic support.
Wow,
it goes on like that. It's actually quite well thought out. Thank you, Metablade.
Yeah, actually, most things he said, I kind of actually agree with so far. Good. You know, yeah, dude, get this guy, hire him up, IGN.
So. The assumed length of timed exclusivity on this is 1 year. Sony have a bad habit of renewing contracts, but that's not going to happen while they're under Xbox, unless it was already a 2-year deal, which like press F to doubt. So I will always assume it's 1 year. I would really like it if it was only 3 months, but we'll have to see. At least it means we'll get 2 Arcane games to play next year. In the year 2022, we'll have Redfall and Deathloop to play, which is
that's true. Like, you can give me an infinite amount of Arcane games. I'd be happy.
Yeah, man. Fucking Deathloop. I'm over it now. You can tell. You know, I'm not bitter about it at all.
Yeah, I could tell by the size you said its name there.
It's just sad, man. It's just sad.
It really is.
So, yep, game looks banging. Hope everybody has a good time playing it. If anybody wants to buy me a PS5 so I can play it, now, that would be great. But other than that, I'll be waiting till 2022, I guess. Cheers.
Yeah.
So, this week in news, many things have happened. Many things. The first thing the big thing really. Let's start with the big thing, which was a massive leak from NVIDIA on the NVIDIA.
NVIDIA.
That's what I said. NVIDIA GeForce Now, that's like their subscription service, I think, from what I understand. Somebody managed to get into like the database and see what games were like in there for upload, like, you know, like file names and shit. And it like was massive. There was so much stuff on it, like not even just Xbox. This was like across the board. And some things coming from Xbox in particular were a bunch of project names. There was Project Woodstock, Project Typhoon, Project Holland, and Project Oxide. Now, as we all know, Typhoon was what was reported as Contraband, which has now been announced. So that's what that end. Jez Corden from Windows Central has confirmed that Project Holland was Fable and that Woodstock is Forza. Now, this leaves one unannounced game there that we don't seem to have heard of, and that's Oxide. Yeah. So Windows Central wrote up a pretty spicy article sort of summarizing this and the stuff that was in there, and they said that from what they understand, it's internally known as Project Indus, which is a strategy simulation title drawing inspiration from the city building genre. It's a 4X strategy game. I didn't know what that meant. Do you know what a 4X strategy game is?
No, I understood it up until 4X strategy game.
Yeah, and I don't think we're alone here. I think this is quite.
Is it something to do with? Oh, okay. Is it something to do with like the like dimensions of how it works?
I thought that as well. But it turned out.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's called that. So like I've just pasted like a bit of the Wikipedia article here, just explaining what it is. But it says 4X is a subgenre of strategy-based computer and board games, and include both turn-based and real-time strategy titles. The gameplay involves building an empire. Emphasis is placed upon economic and technological development, as well as a range of non-military routes to supremacy. It's a very strong word.
Wow. I haven't heard the word supremacy in a while.
I know. You only ever hear it in bad context, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's something which is currently being worked on. I think there is a studio called Oxide Games which have released strategy games for PC before, and supposedly the game is being prepared to launch on Xbox and PC together. And there's a little bit of nice concept art which is supposedly from that game, which is, you should see, it's the one with the waterfall at the top, and it's got blimps and balloons and shit.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
Yeah, it does look very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's strategy games, isn't it? You know, there's a market for it, and I'm not surprised. You know, this is what Xbox want to do. They want to get diversity on their platform. They want it on Gamespot so that people get into these different genres, and then they're hooked on them because Xbox would be the only publisher sort of pumping this stuff out, or at least to the amount that they plan to anyway. So, any thoughts on that little take?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, you know, with Xbox trying to dip their toes in every genre and get like a really nice staple franchise in most genres is the way to go. You know, variety is the spice of life, as they say.
They do say
Sony might be, you know, enjoying their sad dad games at the moment and their single player story narratives and stuff, but eventually that's going to get stale, man. Like, eventually people are going to want other things. You can't just keep making those games for generations and generations.
I don't know. I think
at least I'd like to think. I think I would get kind of sick of that. Like you said in the last episode, you can almost picture what that Wolverine game is going to look like and how it's going to play.
It's going to look like.
You know, exactly. See, there's not really much excitement left. Where, sure, I'm not really a big strategy man. This game might not appeal to me, but you know, if I give it a go, I might really uncover something that I'll really enjoy and just be like, maybe I'll give strategy games more of a go. You know, maybe I'll. you know, maybe Age of Empires will also tickle my pickle to the extent that I try something like this out. You know, it's all about it's all about just varied games. I mean, I know that's coming from me, someone who only plays Apex, but like I do really enjoy like the horror genre personally.
You like XCOM as well, don't you?
Yeah, XCOM was fantastic. I really enjoyed XCOM. And you know, I've enjoyed Halo Wars as well, you know, which is a bit more strategy focused in that regard. But yeah, you know, the games I enjoy are very varied. I just have an illness where I can't complete games. I don't really want to talk about it.
Sorry to hear about it. Yeah.
It's a bit personal.
I hope it doesn't spread.
No, I don't think it's contagious.
So hopefully. Yeah, it opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it? Because, you know, I think we like those third person sort of action adventures that the Sony pump out very well. You know, we don't. It goes without saying. You know, the reason they're so popular is because they always review. I feel like that's a genre that reviews well. It's easier to review that sort of game because it's the closest game. It's the closest type of game that there is to like a film. It's like the most, you know, has the most cinematics, and that, you know, they're like got big blockbuster approaches to stuff. And there's lots of walking and talking moments, you know, lots of cutscenes and that sort of stuff. So they get reviewed. More, I'm not going to say easier. They get reviewed more accurately, but just because like the games industry is much more immature than other industries. So like I feel like reviewers draw on that by comparison, you know, and maybe in 50 years, 60 years, maybe longer, we'll have a better, like when crazy games have come out, they're like, I didn't even think about that a game could do that. Kind of like Deathloop. Deathloop, I feel like, is one of those games that's like that. This could shake up a genre. And we start thinking about games differently and how we're going to review them. I just think third-person action adventures are the easiest to do that with. So that appeals to loads of people. So I think most people who own PlayStation consoles don't buy all of these, or at least not close together. You know, they will have one, and, you know, I think there's like a number out there, I can't remember what it was, that like the average console owner only has like 5 games over the generation or something like that. So
yeah,
you know, it gives you an idea of it gives you an idea of like, so for that person, you know, like spending a year playing Horizon and then the next year playing God of War, to them, do they get fatigued? Probably not. But for maybe the more hardcore audience, you know, like I've played like third person action adventures back to back, and I've been like, I need a break from this. Like I remember going from Horizon to
God of War.
No, I had to wait to play God of War, I think it was. So I think I played Bloodborne, and then I went straight to Horizon. And they're quite different games, you know, like, but they are third-person action adventure games, you know, whether you want to categorize it as a Souls game or not, like it's under that umbrella. And I was just like, I really want to play God of War, but I need a break. And I think I played Last of Us as well, something like that. And I was just like, I just need a break because it's just fatiguing to like play like similar things, even though they are different games, but, you know, there are overlaps there. So yeah, you know, having that variety there is nice. Having it on Games Pass is nice. I'm interested to see how this all works out. And, you know, like, speaking of Contraband, that game, we don't know like barely anything about it, but it sounds very cool. And there was just a small thing in here that I wanted to add, that it was a job listing suggests that it's been in development since 2018. So gives you an idea of the time frame of like when they might be looking to release it. I think everybody's assuming it's a 2023 game, but if it's been in production since 2018, it's very possible it could be 2022, which is next year.
Yeah, I'd say it's had a lot of time in the oven already. You know, when people release trailers and teasers and like to announce their game, you know, that does tend to mean it's coming to, you know, the end of its cycle. You know, they're ready to start showing some gameplay soon and release it, you know, probably within a year to come from that announcement, sort of thing, because it's not good to just be like Contraband and then just go silent again, or take 2 more years to release it, because, you know, the hype levels do dwindle, they do go down. It's quite, it's quite tough to get that sort of time frame right. I would actually, my gut is actually saying it is a 2022 game, latter end of 2022. I'd like to say, sort of towards this sort of time next year.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. I think Contraband probably was initially a 2022 game, but I reckon with the pandemic, it's maybe getting a bit iffy. And the reason I think that it won't come 2022 unless they can make first half 2022. I don't think it's coming 2022, and the reason I say that is because we obviously already have Redfield, which is Redfield. What the fuck's a Redfield?
Redfield.
Redfall, which is summer. They've said summer 2022, and then obviously did we get a release date? Yeah, we did, didn't we? It was 11/11/22, so November. So we've got two games that are. We've got one probably, let's say June, I guess, maybe July, and then one in November. And Starfield, let's face it, is going to suck all of the room out the air. And Redfall is probably going to be a pretty big deal as well.
All of the room out of the air? Are you all right?
I don't know.
Are you stroking out right now? Do you want to have a glass of water or something?
The room out of the air.
You said the room out of the air.
No, I'm trying to picture that. I don't even know what that looks like.
Let's face it, everyone. It's going to suck the room out of the air. You said it with such confidence.
So confident, yeah. It's going to suck the room out of the air. This is one of those
That's how good it's going to be. Yeah.
I think... we have this running joke because one time Tim said instead of proven guilty, he said Gilvin Pruity, and that's been his name on our group chat since for years.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, everyone was accusing me. Yeah, instead of innocent until proven guilty, I was like, innocent until Gilvin Pruity. Oh mate, it was funny.
Yeah, just a little bit worse than sucking the room out of the air.
I don't know, man.
I don't know either. What does that mean?
It's pretty bad. Oh, anyway.
I literally don't know. I don't even... Okay. So, yeah. So that's why I think Contraband probably slips to 2023. And as we all know, 2023 onwards is stupid. Like, the cogs are turning now on Xbox Game Studios. You know, the cogs are turning, and it's nice. It's refreshing. We have games. Some of them are still multi-plat. There are some good indie games that are coming out exclusives. 2022 is going to be... You know, cogs have sped up moderately fast. 2023 is going to be severe chronic illness. It's going to be terminal.
Yeah, I think this year I'd probably give like a solid 6.5, 7. You know, for gamers. It's cool with the next generation. We got the consoles in our homes. That's great. Not really much on them natively built for them yet. I think. So yeah, I give it like a solid 6.5. I think 2022's out of 10 on like the hype meter, just being like, you know, there's been
overall,
some things,
not just Xbox.
Yeah. Just well, no, I'm speaking from an Xbox standpoint.
Yeah, okay.
I think Halo might dip it into a 7, but like, and I think 2022 will be a solid 8.5. Like, we're going to get some pretty juicy things. We're going to see a lot of stuff that's built only for this generation now, but they're going to start to leave the old consoles in the past, and then 2023 is just going to be a bit of a banger, I think.
There's so much.
It's just ramping up.
There's so much, like, because the wheels will be fully turning by 2023, so the production line, you know, I know that's like usually used in a negative context, but like the production line will be in full force. Like, there's still stuff which is a bit out of whack, and the pandemic's obviously throwing things off kilter, and obviously the timed exclusivity deals with PlayStation of like are still in place and just stuff like that. So it's going to be crazy after that. But as you say, towards the end of this year, we still have Age of Empires, like literally over the next few months. Age of Empires, Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite. So that could very well pick it all up. But I think generally this has been quite a good year for games. It's just they're not in the typical like genres.
It's just and it's just been weird. This the whole time displacement,
lots of delays
of it all has been so weird. Like, there was so much hype around getting my console, and I was just like, oh, this is so dark, and then it's just like nothing. And then, you know, nothing was really happening with it. I was just kind of using it as I was my Series X, my Xbox One X, sorry. Yeah, and now, obviously, stuff's coming in towards the latter end of the year, but there's been these awkward time gaps of like, loads of hype, none hype, loads of hype again, no hype, and it's just like, and that's why overall I feel like the year's been okay. Don't get me wrong, but I think 2022 and 2023 are really just gonna start dumping out some insane games. It's gonna be kind of crazy, I think.
Yeah, without a doubt. And one of those games is, of course, Inexile's next game, developers of Wasteland 3 and the rest of the Wasteland series. They were acquired quite a while back now. I want to say 2018. They were like one of the first acquired with like Ninja Theory and Compulsion games as well. And when they made the Initiative and acquired Playground, they sort of confirmed that for developers of Forza. And this team is supposedly working on one of the most expensive projects that Xbox is running, like in competition with Halo levels of expensive. And the photo I've got here at the bottom, it's codenamed Project Colbolt, is supposedly concept art from the game. It's meant that we have spoken about this before, but because these projects have resurfaced, it's just kind of brought it back into the conversation a little bit, along with this concept art. First-person steampunk RPG, supposedly with some very ambitious systems. So that game's going to be bonkers. Again, this is probably a 2023 game again, but maybe slips to 24.
Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, just based off that screenshot, like I love the whole like the overall like vibe to it. It looks great.
It's like Victorian, a little bit,
yeah. I'm getting kind of vibes to what was that? The Order 1886. I'm getting kind of vibes of that.
That's why.
Yeah, like Victorian steampunk sort of thing.
That's right.
I'm getting sort of vibes like that, but and obviously that was first person too. But like an actual like RPG built around that sort of time era rather than a 4-hour game about werewolves.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I actually really liked The Order. Like I remember watching my brother play the entire thing, and I thought it was actually a really sick game. I think of it quite positively. I know a lot of people didn't, but yeah, it's a really cool time period. You can do a lot with it, and it'd be interesting to know if it will be realistic to that, or if they'll throw in some sort of magic elements similar to like Dishonored or something like that as well. I could see those two sort of going hand in hand quite nicely. But yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I have a lot of faith in that team. Wasteland 3, while it's not everyone's cup of tea, is like the sheer amount in that game was kind of boggling, and like all of the like even the reaction systems that we had when we played the game briefly. But I've seen from reviews like decisions you make are like rippling for the rest of the game kind of thing, and then that kind of like nesting with other decisions you make. It's just like absolutely crazy. There's a reason the game reviewed so well at the back end of last year. So I've got a lot of confidence in that team. And there were some other projects from Bethesda as well, but they were like nobody has a clue what they meant, or even if they were like actual games, or maybe they were just like tech or software. So there's not much to speak about from that other than Bethesda are making more games, which is not really news or surprising. So
yeah, we all know that's happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely. So there has been some weird like frenzy this week around some big news that insiders are hearing. Some insiders, the thing is, no like really reputable ones which are really reliable, have said that they've heard anything. But some insiders that are like sometimes know stuff all seem to be implying that they've heard something massive.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, and like one of them comes from what was his name? Stein, who's I think he's like the community director at Xbox or something. And he had that. He said, "When a meeting leaves you like this, and it's like the Chris Pratt, like surprised gift kind of thing." So
Parks and Recreation, that's from
Parks and Rec, yeah.
And
so just different insiders who are like kind of reliable, and obviously, he's part of Xbox, so but he could be talking about anything with that. But it just seems to all be happening at once, and it's just that's kind of brought up the topic again of like, oh, is there another acquisition coming soon? And it's gonna happen. But like, do you remember before E3, everybody lost their fucking minds and thought there was going to be like loads of acquisitions done then?
Yeah.
It feels like that again. Like people are just getting excited, and some people are like they're going to acquire Take-Two, and Take-Two are obviously the publishers of like GTA.
That's the rumors I've heard. Yeah,
right, and it's just like I don't know. Like, I mean, it's after Bethesda, nothing's impossible anymore, I guess. But I don't know why we're doing this to ourselves.
It's kind of crazy though, like because obviously Rockstar are obviously the biggest ones that fall under Take-Two, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, the developers of GTA, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And Red Dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was literally just about to say it's crazy to. It's a big company. Obviously, you could say the same about Bethesda. If arguably Bethesda are actually bigger in the video game industry, but I don't know. There's just there's a lot of weight to Rockstar as well, and they've been around for so long too.
It does just make you think though, like, well, if they can acquire the publisher that makes Elder Scrolls, is this really off the cards? No. So it's just kind of like, so who are the people under these boys again? I can't remember. So we've got Rockstar, 2K is under them, Private Division is under them, Ghost Story.
I did look and see that like the Outer Worlds was also like published by Take-Two.
It was Private Division.
So we've obviously they've worked with Obsidian before, which are under Xbox as well. So there's been some collaboration in there in the past.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
All I say.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, I think there's been a lot of people like that because we've gotten to this point. People are just doing wish lists now, and like we spoke about this maybe like 6 months ago with like Warner Brothers was looking to sell off its game division, and then they were like, actually, nah. But then a lot of people were like, well, actually, like usually, like just because they've publicly said no doesn't mean those conversations aren't still ongoing. They just wanted to gauge interest. So. And as we know, Matt Booty, who oversees Xbox Games Publishing, used to work at Warner Brothers, so we know like the connections there are quite deep. And I've got to say, if they're looking to make another big purchase, man, go straight for Warner Brothers. Like, Take-Two is like whatever. GTA is so big that I kind of just feel like guilty for like us, like because they're going to make it. Probably it would be an exclusive game, and it's just like, dude, we don't really. Let's just let them do them, However, Warner Bros., I just feel like, it comes off the back of the conversation we had last week, where it kind of, especially if they can get the licenses that come with it, Lord of the Rings, DC Universe, Mortal Kombat, Batman, there's just like the shit goes on, and the studios there are just like amazing. Monolith, Rocksteady, NetherRealm, can't think of any more. So, but
yeah.
I don't think this is happening. I really don't believe it. I don't think they're going for another publisher, especially like not this soon. Like it hasn't even been a year since Bethesda have been like the anniversary is actually coming up, so it's funny to bring it up. But it hasn't even been a year since Bethesda have been fully under Xbox, and I just still feel like they don't want to like shit on their feet,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, the expression holds.
Thanks.
Yeah, you almost want to give them the limelight a little bit.
Exactly.
Not to just be like, oh yeah, we're just buying loads of you. Like you're not special.
Yeah, right.
We're just buying loads of you. There is an element of that, but.
So I don't think we're looking at a publisher really yet. Even if all of these reactions are there, it could. It could mean so many different things. So, I would advise everybody to chill their beans, pop them in the fridge or in the freezer if you roll that way. And this, like as I say, we know, like Satya Nadella has said, they're going to look to grow the games division with inorganic growth. So we know there are it's happening. It just depends who and where and. On the recently, Jez Corden from Windows Central again has spoken on his podcast about what he knows about this, and he said that he thinks he has good reason to believe that there are going to be some acquisitions of some indie devs over like between the before the end of the year maybe, and so that prompts me to ask you, what indie dev would you like to see be acquired by Xbox?
That's a good question.
Thanks.
I can't think of any indie devs off the top of my head.
Who are the people think of the indie games you've played? Yeah, Supermassive.
By them, Supermassive. Yeah,
I don't think that's off the cards.
Supermassive. Yeah,
there's clearly some partnership there because they got it straight into Gamespot, so I had to negotiate that.
Who are the people that make Slay the Spire as well? I'm picturing their logo and everything, but I can't. Picture who it is.
I actually don't know.
I can picture their logo. Hit my mic.
God,
I can picture their logo and everything, but I can't.
Yeah, I don't know who it is. It's Megacrit.
It's Megacrit. That's it.
It's their first game, isn't it? I think so.
Yeah, it could be. Or even Behemoth. Give me Behemoth. Behemoth Chicken, whatever they're called.
Behemoth.
Is it Behemoth or is it Behemoth Chicken?
I think it's Behemoth, but their logo's a chicken, so
yeah. So it's Behemoth. I'd like to see Supermassive or Behemoth. I guess off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think those are some good shouts for sure.
What about you? What about you, man? Same question back.
Supermassive would definitely be top of everyone's
Devolver
list.
Would be cool.
I mean, I imagine they've had, as in the publisher Devolver. That would be interesting. Someone like Annapurna, they're a publisher, but they just publish so many good indie games. Yes, I reckon Supermassive have had. We'll move past that. I reckon Supermassive have had a lot of phone calls since Hades, to speak about it. I would love Moon Studios, developers of Ori, but they said they don't want to be acquired just yet.
Okay.
Because they're neck deep into their next game, which is a Diablo-like action RPG, which will be multiplayer. They said that the plans were multiplayer, and that was a year or two ago. So, unless any deals have stepped in the way of that, but they're just such a talented team, man, and they have a good track record. So I feel like that would, if they could renegotiate that, I think that would be great. There's the team that did Cuphead, Studio MDHR. Or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I reckon expand that team, the nothing to this day looks the way Cuphead does. Expand that team and get them doing something.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I know, Neon Giant did the Ascent, which for the size of that team, it's 12 people, is really impressive. So I think. Xbox have got to be looking at that a little bit and saying, imagine what those guys could do with more time to polish off the bits which were a bit wonky, and a bigger team. So yeah, I'm kind of eyeing up those guys if we're talking about indie. But of course, technically Bungie is indie. There's lots of there are some AAA developers that are still independent, even though that's becoming rarer and rarer. CD Projekt Red is also. Technically, they publish their own games, is what I mean. But I think those are some good candidates that we laid down there.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously, we just had Death's Door as well, by Acid Nerve, and that was made by 2 people. Obviously, they had contractors, but there were 2 main people in. I think that would be.
Didn't know that. One. That's crazy.
Yeah. But that was published by Devolver, and what else was I thinking of? What's that? There's a game coming out at the end of the month, Nobody Saves the World, that looks really good. I'm pretty sure it's the same developers as Guacamelee 1 and 2. Juicebox, it's got to be Juicebox, right? Drinkbox, close. And they've made nothing but good games, and Nobody Saved the World looks really good. As well. That's coming out early 2022. I thought it was coming out sooner than that. Okay, well, whatever. Yeah. So there's that. Acquisitions will happen. It might just come in the form of indie developers, which doesn't surprise me too much. Especially with the success that Xbox have been having with some of these indie games over the last few months. Will they look to do another publisher? Yeah, maybe at some point. I'd be really surprised to see it soon. But
yeah,
watch this space.
Indeed.
So, next up, in the very same podcast, Jez revealed all. He spoke about what he knows about sort of the future of the first party and third party in Xbox. And there's some wacky shit, man, in here. There's some weird shit.
Yeah.
A MOBA? A first party MOBA
Okay.
based on an existing IP. Existing Xbox IP.
Halo MOBA.
Like, it can't be. It cannot be a Halo IP. A Halo
Gears MOBA.
No, fucking please, no, don't. They're pimping Gears out too much. That would make me really sad.
On an existing IP?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Viva Pinata?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what would translate well into a MOBA.
Forza?
Existing. Forza MOBA. Oh, God.
Yeah, you can put your McLarens up against your Porsches. It'd be good. In the jungle.
What would go well? Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. But yeah, I mean, it's a risky genre to go for. Especially as like an exclusive to a platform. I mean, I guess it's not exclusive to a platform because we do everything and PC, right? And PC is the biggest platform for MOBAs. So, yeah, I guess it's not too bad. It'd be a lot weirder if Sony were doing an exclusive MOBA.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I agree. I think it is risky. I think because MOBAs are like really hard to get any traction in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's only
I've seen a lot fail.
Yeah, there's only a handful that actually are still going, you know, in Dota, Smite, League of Legends, and Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, because I mean, off the top of my head, obviously you had Battleborn that flopped.
It's MOBA-like, yeah.
Yeah, it was MOBA-like, yeah. And there was that other one on PC that people really liked, and it flopped because it didn't have a big base. I forgot what it was called. It will come back to me, but yeah. It's a tough space to get going in.
So, like, unless they're bringing something really unique to it, you know, I hope they are, because I would like hate to see a repeat of like Bleeding Edge, where it's like there's some really good bones here, but there's just not quite enough to separate it from the competition. Just because the competition is really tough, like that's all. Like, especially with these sorts of games, you know, because if you're asking someone to play a Bleeding Edge campaign for 8 hours, that's probably fine. But if you're asking someone to play it for days and days and days, and it's like, you know, there needs to be more meat here. So,
definitely,
that's the difficulty with these things. And I don't know who would be making that, because Xbox don't have any studios that I'm aware of that would. So I'm assuming someone would be contracted out to do it with like a third party deal. So that's one of the weird ones. Paragon.
Was the game
that was one that was the first person one that was just on PlayStation, wasn't it?
No. It wasn't first person, I don't think.
Was it not? Oh, was it third person?
No, I think it was third person, yeah. And it had like a... Yeah, I don't really know how to describe it.
Looks good.
Quite a realistic sort of style, graphics and stuff like that. Right. Yeah, no, I saw some gameplay of it and I was like, dude, this shit looks great. And I found out like it was just dead, like a year down the line or something. And I was like, oh,
shut its service down. Launched in August 2016, shut down in April 2018. Jeez.
And there was that recent one that Amazon developed as well that just instantly flopped too. Forgot what that was called.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
But yeah, it's a tough space.
Rest in peace, Gigantic, right?
Oh yeah, Gigantic. Yeah, that was
Gigantic was a genuine banger, and that still failed. So like,
we really enjoyed it, and I feel like the reception from most people who played it, they really enjoyed it as well. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough space, man. I'd actually say it's probably one of the most competitive genres out there.
Definitely. So I think there is like an element of me. It's like, oh, I just hope you know what you're doing, guys. Like, I hope there's something good here.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've got that. A bunch of indie titles from smaller developers, apparently from party, Xbox publishing for exclusivity deals. A side scroller beat 'em up. This might be a Battletoads 2, frankly. I would expect a Battletoads 2.
Yeah.
Which we can complete in one night.
We did
Me
it.
and
We
you.
did it. We didn't do it in one night, did we?
No, I guess we didn't.
Do it in one night. It was like 1.5 nights.
Yeah, 24 hours though.
Yeah, exactly.
A cloud-powered MMO.
Nice.
The strategy.
It's adventurous. It's yeah.
I mean, yeah. The strategy game that we just spoke about, and then there's stuff that we have like touched on like previously that we know is in the pipeline, like Project Dragon from IO Interactive, which again is like hyper ambitious. Allegedly, it's way down the line. Supposedly still a Kojima game. Contraband, and more. And there is some more on the first party front as well. In Mojang making more new Minecraft games. So I'm not talking about a Minecraft 2. I'm just talking about more Minecraft games, which by the way,
like dungeons and stuff, yeah.
When the whole conversation was going on last week about licensed IP, and like, does Xbox need a superhero game, to have like the pulling power of a big IP? Minecraft is like as big as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Minecraft's crazy, and so like I'm just confused.
It doesn't really have an iconic character though. You just play a dude named Steve.
It's just Steve, man. That's all right. That's enough. The argument for why Minecraft is still multiplat. I mean, I would expect that Minecraft wouldn't be pulled from PlayStation stores, but like something like Minecraft Dungeons, like the argument for it is because it's so big, it's its own platform, right? It's not just a game anymore. There's like a whole content creation community. There are toys, there are board games, there's merch. So like it's too big. Like the argument is that if you took it off PlayStation, you'd be alienating those people who would otherwise you'd get upsell from on more merch. That's the argument. However, I feel like you can make that exact same argument with Spider-Man, with Wolverine, with the Marvel cast. So like I'm just a bit confused with this is like the crux I'm at. So I'm like confused as to why Xbox don't have this same approach with these spin-off games at the very least. Like Minecraft Dungeon should have been exclusive, if you ask me. Yeah. I don't get why that game wasn't. Yeah. Because there's like a really hardcore following for that game.
Until this very moment, I genuinely thought it was exclusive. So that's a big fail from me. I just assumed. That's pretty bad that it wasn't, and I don't know why.
And Mojang's just a weird one because like they just don't seem to give a shit about Mojang. Maybe it's just the whole thing of like let them do their own thing, but everybody just forgets that Microsoft just like casually owns Minecraft and the developers of that. And it's like Mojang is in a weird place. They just don't seem to pimp them out that much or give a shit about how big a Minecraft game could be. I mean, maybe they have the data that suggests that the spin-off from Minecraft games just don't do that well to warrant exclusivity. Like maybe they just don't draw enough eyeballs. It's just the base game, because they did like the Telltale game or some shit, didn't they? Like Minecraft story mode or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just feel like this is something they should be really capitalizing on. If they're going to have Mojang making more Minecraft games, lock them down, man. Like people love that shit. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Compulsion is working on their thing, and he knows what that is. So yeah, essentially, lots in the works. The biggest thing there, I would argue, is the MOBA based on an existing Xbox IP, which is we've spoken. Other insiders have teased that a spin-off from an existing IP is being made. I don't know if this is it or if this is something different, but this is it's a bold play. It's a bold
play, Cotton. Yeah.
See if it
pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
So I literally don't know like what that could be. Unless they like repurposed Fable Legends into like a MOBA.
Yeah, I was literally just our frequency. We're on the same all the time. I was literally just about to say Fable. Fable could fit quite nicely in there.
That could work, but it's just like I guess there's just quite a lot of creative potential. Maybe like maybe it's maybe it'd be a good idea to like release after the mainline, the next Fable from Playground, because they like expanded the universe. There are heroes everywhere,
Yeah, because Fable is one of those. It's one of those sort of worlds where it has everything as well, right? It has like medieval combat, swords, and all that sort of stuff. It has guns. It has magic. It has creatures. It has it literally all those things you can make very interesting MOBA characters about. That have their own individual personalities and stuff like that. Yeah, no, it could work. It is big enough to potentially work.
Interesting.
We've done it. We've cracked it wide open.
I think we have done. I mean, I can see that working.
I think if we come back here in 5-6 years' time, quick resume with the ones that
episode 662.
Yeah, we were right.
We told you. Go watch episode 25. I bloody told you. Yeah. Wicked. I mean, okay, that's all the silly shit done. The acquisition, the leaks, all this, that, and the other. We've got actual hard news now, so this is way more relaxing. Put your feet up. There's some good times.
I'll let you do the rest then, yeah?
Yeah, not you. You can't put your feet up. So there was this weird thing happened because basically you can connect the Elite Series 2 controller to Steam. Is it Steam? Yeah, Steam, I think. And I don't know if this is a new thing or whatever, but somebody has just very recently discovered that you can go into the settings and change the light color of the Xbox button. What's it called? The Nexus button or something. So, which obviously lets us know that that's a multicolor LED. It's an RGB LED, which is like, why can't I do that on my settings? Why can't I make it blue? I'd love to do that.
It's an additional feature they'll charge us for, mate. People go crazy for RGB.
Yeah, probably break it. Although I know you can get like little things you can put over the top of it, like little coloured like like caps. Yeah, for the same effect. But I want to do that, man. I hope they make that now that the lid's been blown wide off on this nutcase. I hope we can actually do that.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool, man. I love RGB stuff. I mean, my background, I've got LEDs all in my room.
We can tell. Yeah, we can tell.
I do enjoy a bit of RGB.
Yeah. You might have to replace your Elite Series 2 just 3 or 4 times. But, be worth it for a green. The colour green on your...
It's totally worth it.
Totally. There is... well... If you don't know, storage space on these next gen consoles is a bit of a tricky one.
It's butts.
It's butts. Okay, yeah, butts. It's butts. Yeah. I thought you were saying butt. I thought you were going to correct me.
No.
And to get Xbox, at launch had their is it Seagate? I think it's Seagate expansion. It's 1 terabyte. It's very expensive. It's proprietary. That's what's happening on the green side. Over on the blue side, there is nothing yet, which is fully... Well, not long ago, there was stuff which started to get fully endorsed. I think it was the M.2 SSD storages, which I know very little about, but we all laugh because you had to literally take the console apart to put it in. And some of them, you even needed a heatsink, which is just so stupid. It's just a bad decision if you ask me. And the prices really weren't that different compared to Xbox's proprietary stuff anyway, so it's just it's not worth the hassle. However, with Xbox's proprietary SSD expansion being mighty expensive, I think it was like £200. Did you have one?
No, I don't have one. No,
I got one a while back, and it's been a godsend. But I was paying it off for 6 months with Amazon's because it was like £200, for 1 terabyte, which is not much, but it's enough. It's now enough. I don't have to uninstall stuff that often. I usually have enough space to be going on with. So there seems to be a 500 gigabyte one on the way, which is probably a good idea. They've probably identified that there's a gap in the market for people who don't want to, £200 is too much. £100, however, for a bit of storage, probably worth it. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy how expensive these things are.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sorry, it's if I peep my mic there. It's just SSD. To be honest, it's that expensive when you buy it for anything like PCs and all that kind of stuff. I know, being in my job and purchasing MacBooks and stuff like that, um, getting extra internal SSD on them, obviously that's soldered right onto the logic board. It's very expensive. You are looking at a couple £100 for that extra like terabyte, or £150 or something like that. So it's not too far off from those sort of costs. And if anything, it's even more convenient because it's external. It's just plug and play, right? It's not soldered on or anything like that. So it's just SSD is just that expensive. It is one of those things. It will get cheaper in time as new technologies evolve and we find more efficient ways to do these things. It's like HDD was really expensive not that long ago.
DDD.
It's cheap as chips now, man. You can buy like 4 or 5 terabyte external SSD for like 60 quid. Like, it's so cheap. But it used to be very expensive. So it's just a matter of time. It's just the way the world works. It's always worked that way with technology.
Yeah, I think it's one of those unfortunate like intersections in that we're at the point where games are going to start getting very fucking big. They already are, but it's just going to get worse. Especially as we move into.
So I don't want to interrupt. What was the new Call of Duty clocked in at? It's like 120 or something.
Yeah. Right.
It's mental.
I dread to think what Halo's going to be. Like, Halo's probably going to be like up at a similar level, like maybe 80.
Yeah, I mean, MCC and Halo 5 are like 100 plus, and they're bloody not even, and they're not even Series X games. Halo Infinite's going to be a big old boy.
Right. Yeah. So as we move into these games being just like on the current consoles, they're just going to get bigger and less. I mean, I think I can't really remember. I swear, Xbox had this whole thing about an initiative to help devs condense games or something. I can't remember what it was, but it's obviously for the same reason. We're gonna hit that point of games getting massive before we get to the point of SSDs becoming cheap enough for the for the casual gamer, affordable. Right? Yeah. And I will add, the thing for the X on the Series X, it's lovely. It's so nice. USBs piss me off. Which way in does it go? I always get it wrong.
Never. No one ever gets it in the first time round.
Right. Yeah, and they're easy. Dodge. They're easy to damage, and it's all floppy and. It's turning into a very sexy podcast.
But Xbox anymore.
I'm pretty sure I might be speaking out of my ass here, but I'm pretty sure it goes in either way, and it just slides in, and it's I don't have to flop a load of hard drives around the side of my Xbox, so it's like a gangly mechanical octopus. It just goes in the back. I don't see it, and if I'm moving it around, I take it out, and I just move it. It's lovely. What are you looking at?
I'm just having a look at the port quickly.
The port? Oh, right, yeah.
What it plugs into. Ow.
God.
Okay.
It's a little vertical line.
Yeah. I was just trying to identify whether or not I've seen it before and whether or not it does just slip in both ways.
Right.
Yeah. It looks like it might do.
Yeah, but either way, yeah, man, it's really, really lovely. So hopefully those start to drop, and having a 500 gigabyte is nice. I guess the only issue you might run into is that with them being proprietary and not USB, you only can put one in at a time, whereas you could run multiple hard drives off your previous console. So committing to a smaller size one is arguably might be a bit harder to swallow, but whatever choice.
Yeah. You don't know what the future holds. We might be able to.
I know.
I know. That was such a good response. I know.
All of it. I know all of it.
Yeah, they might be able to work some SSD magic with the USB 3 port. and stuff like that. They don't necessarily have to use what they put in.
Maybe
what the SSD uses right now. I mean, you can run external SSDs on laptops with USB-C and stuff like that. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
There will be alternatives in the future. It won't just be hot swappable with that one slot. There'll be alternatives for the future using different ports, using the USB 3 and stuff like that. So
yeah.
You can quote me on that.
Okay, brilliant. We both know the future.
Mm-hmm.
All right, for our last two items then, Master Chief Collection, that game, is set to stop receiving seasonal updates once Halo Infinite launches. It will still be updated, but it won't be on this sort of steady cadence of having, a season every 3 months. I don't think there was, frankly, much negative reaction to this. I think, do you know what? In actual fact, a lot of the sentiment I've seen has, seems to be that it's made people grateful for the support that they have got, because there's been some big stuff in the last few updates. I don't know if you saw the armor. Did you see the armor? The whole they started putting
I didn't know,
non-canon armor into MCC, kind of like how we've spoken about how they're going to in Infinite, and the whole samurai armor.
Okay.
And there was knight armor, and it looked great. Obviously, it pissed some people off because someone's always getting triggered in the Halo community. It's not my canon armor and all of that. There's a tab. There's a legacy tab, so that you don't have to see it.
They genuinely try to hide it from players, so they don't have aneurysms.
MCC. I just want to check that that's not a joke that I've just taken the wrong way, or if that is an actual thing. I'm pretty sure they did add a tab for something like this.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Halo MCC Legacy tab. Yeah, I feel like there was a thing where you flick it, and then if you saw someone using one of those armor sets, it would just revert it back to a default armor. But I hope I'm not being made a fool of.
Yeah,
or maybe that's what people wanted.
Yeah,
maybe that's what people were saying they wanted. Yeah,
it'd be ridiculous if they did develop that, and that'd be crazy.
Yeah, ugh. So. And they added obviously firefights in there from ODST, and was there firefight in Reach? I can't remember. And they I can't remember. But they added
firefight was in Reach.
They added the flood to firefight. Flood was never in firefight, and back in the days when they've added that to part of the thing. And so there's been some big updates with this sort of stuff, and so I think the community's been quite thankful. I never thought that would happen, but they are. And this just makes sense, right? Infinite's going to be. We all know it's going to be a platform in and of itself moving forward. There's still lots to see, but MCC
exactly.
You deserved a better start, but you had a solid end.
Yeah, exactly, and it's still going forward. They just said there won't be updates to the extent it's getting now. They'll still, they're not just going to leave it to rot. So, but yeah, there comes a point where you just need to shift priorities, right? So, it makes sense.
For definite. And the final item for today is the newest Games Pass drops, which is coming for, I guess, this month, September. Or maybe it's for next month, coming into October. But we've got a couple of things here, a couple of names which I recognise for sure. We've got Aragami 2. I don't know if you've seen it. I've heard this before. Apparently, people are quite excited about this.
I've heard it's a good game.
Yeah. We've got Sable. That game has been shown off for years now, which looks very pretty. I Am Fish looks fucking great. I'm actually not joking.
Yeah.
It's like a physics co-op, local co-op game. Not dissimilar from Gang Beasts or Moving Out, Overcooked, that sort of stuff.
Like Goat Sim? Is it kind of like Goat Sim?
A little bit, except there's an actual objective, and you're just a fish rolling around in a ball. But there's co-op, and I guess the objective is to just fuck around. But it's it's one of those sort of physics games, which actually looks really, really fun. Lemnis Gate. I'm kind of interested in Lemnis Gate. I'm glad it's on Games Pass because it's a weird game. I'll probably give it a go at some point, but it looks wild.
Yeah. It looks great, but it looks intimidating. It looks like I need a degree to play that game. Like I need to have a bachelor's in Lemniscate to play it. I need it looks very confusing and very intimidating, but also very unique and very cool at the same time.
Yeah, isn't it like it reminds me of that side scroller? What was it by Capybara Games? Super Time
Force. Yeah,
and because that is how the game works, isn't it? This Lemniscate, you each have a round, and the thing that your character goes out and does will persists for the second round. So then by the end of it, there's and
then you just keep building scenarios, and then they all play out at once, and whoever wins, sort of thing. Yeah,
it's a cool idea, man. Because you could run out and shoot a particular angle so that's covered for next round, things like that. You know, it's just I think it's really interesting. I hope it succeeds because it's such a fascinating idea. We'll have to give it a go.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
And then the last thing that I recognise here, there are obviously other games. There is how many total? 9. Quick maths. 13 total. The last one is Subnautica Below Zero, which is obviously the huge expansion for Subnautica. Arguably one of the scariest fucking games ever created. I know I'm not alone. That game has really good reviews. It's obviously been early access for years. It released fully 3 or 4 years ago or something. But I can't play that game for longer than an hour without actually pissing myself.
But you do have a fear of deep. You do have a deep sea fear.
Yes.
But I mean, it sets me on edge playing it as well. But yeah, definitely you more so. It's like you could probably play a lot of spider scenarios in video games and RPGs where I would crumble away into a puddle and sink into a drain. I would hate it.
I mean, you say you like horror games, mate. Time to stream
There's
some
always
Subnautica.
Spiders.
I bet there'll be sea spiders.
Games. Yeah, probably. Yeah, but I'm actually quite interested because you said the Metro Exodus is kind of next or up there for your backlog to play next.
Yeah,
and, that game has an awful spider level area to the point I was sweating and shitting myself all at the same time. Just every single orifice was leaking in some way.
Jesus Christ.
It was awful. It was awful, Deck. All you have is a fucking lighter, like a cigarette lighter in a pitch black level, and it's just scuttling everywhere and they're chasing you. It's so awful. It was my worst nightmare.
All right, I'm sorry we had to bring this
back.
They
actually probed me in my sleep and then developed a level around my worst nightmare.
And that game, it looks so good now with the optimization, so it's going to be even worse. I'll really be able to see all of their eggs and legs. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's God, it was awful.
Yeah, I'll have to dip my toes into that.
Yeah.
Huh. Boys and girls, we have covered everything today. Everything. We've covered everything. Nothing else has happened. This is all of the world news summarized.
Yeah. You're welcome.
If you've made it this far, we'd love a subscription. We'd love a like, notification bell. You know how this goes. You listen to other podcasts and other YouTube videos. Give us a share. Follow us on Twitter. Have a walk. Have a drink. You've earned it.
Hydrate.
You've earned it.
Exactly.
Tim, do you have any words to sign off today's podcast?
No. You said it all.
You said good to know.
As you do every week. And then you just fling it to me and just cuck me. You just cuck me every single week.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, he's going to get really close to the mic now and say goodbye.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we'll see you next weekend when Xbox acquires the United States of America. Goodbye.
Acquires Sony.
Yeah, bye. The Acquires a Quick Resume podcast.